What is going on? Ryan Hills, always good to talk to you.
What's up, buddy?
How's your morning so far?
It's amazing now that I'm with you.
Oh, that's so kind. Oh man, I was so sick last night. I hit the my head was all congested, so I hit the NyQuil and woke up feeling like a new man.
Oh man, if I do that, anything's game the next day. Like the head's fuzzy for a whole day.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, it's no bueno for me.
Well, we'll find out if mine's fuzzy as we have this conversation. Because if I say anything that I shouldn't say, it's because I'm congested. In the
Good
head.
out. That's a good out. Very wise.
Anytime we talk about different people in the industry, we should probably make sure that we have that caveat where we have an out. It's like starting a golf game by saying, hope this goes well, my shoulders.
Oh yeah.
You never know.
Yeah, exactly.
So Ryan, we really do need to start branding these because we do this every now and again. And when we do, we always get quite a few people watching, which is really fun because we get to have our opinions and our knowledge shared out there. And so this is exciting, and we really do need to do these more often.
Maybe somebody can come up with a really good brand name for us in the comment section below, and we'll just use it in the future.
Oh my gosh, dude, you know what you just started, right? There's going to be so many comments.
If LaFlame's watching, it's going to be all R and X rated, so we can't use any of those. Sorry, Brian.
Yeah, I'm going to follow the comments down here as we're going. So obviously, you know, we're going to start with something that is a very hot topic, hot in that it just happened, a couple days ago that it came out. And then like we always do, we can pretty much go anywhere we want from there. So does that sound good?
Oh, yeah. Sounds amazing.
So first hot topic, obviously, is RESPA. And apparently, there's a regulator who actually cares about that right now.
Shocking. Everybody thought they had gone to sleep, but here we are with a big fine from the FDIC.
Well, the interesting thing, so it's a $1.3 million fine from the FDIC. And the fine is actually the first I've seen of its kind coming from the FDIC on a RESPA violation. It's almost like they looked around at all the other regulators and they're like, you guys aren't going to do anything.
so you're not going to do it? Okay, I guess I'll do it.
I guess that's on us. Like you guys keep seeing the violations, not busting them. I guess we'll do it. So I don't know enough about the FDIC, probably enough as much as I should, because I just don't study them that much. But I don't know, is the leadership of the FDIC, I wonder, are they more, still wanting to enforce?
Yeah, two questions I have for you. Who's typically the person that's going to, find them and write the violation? Because, as you said, it's FDIC, kind of a new character in that space, I guess. And then I made the comment on Brian Stevens' live yesterday that I felt like $1 million sounds big, but in the grand scheme of things, of fines and banks and big mortgage companies, it seemed actually kind of small to me. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, I mean, it's 1.3 million, and it kind of depends on the size of the institution, how big that is, right? 1.3 million against Wells Fargo. I mean, if Wells Fargo had 1.3 fall out of their pocket, they wouldn't even turn around and pick it up. It would cost them $2. But a home street that just dumped the majority of the mortgage space, they transferred that over to Homebridge. And so for them, I don't think that they anticipated. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I don't think they anticipated losing that much money in enforcement. So it can be pretty significant for somebody like that. And I think it's so interesting that sometimes it's based on how much money you have in the bank. But also they can't go after you for $8 billion if you don't have $8 billion.
Yep.
So I guess you go for what you can get sometimes.
Yep. And who typically, is it a state regulator that would write that violation?
Not for banks. No, it would be, typically that would be a CFPB case.
Gotcha.
If it was big enough and a RESPA violation, they would normally get involved. The FDIC getting involved is just really interesting. And it also makes me wonder how many people are they actually looking at right now? Is this the first of many? One of the most interesting things about this case is when you read what Home Street had said in response, they came out and said, well, yeah, everybody was doing exactly the same.
Common practice, yeah.
And so I wonder if the FDIC takes that and goes, hey, money grab, we can actually go after more people and get as much as we wanted. Because, I mean, dude, come on, they can't, right? Everybody's doing the same thing.
Right. The interesting thing, you called this, man, like earlier this year, you're like, hey, everybody thinks that there is no regulators and it's kind of the wild, wild west and anything goes. And you said there's other people, there's other sheriffs in town rather, than just the CFPB. And I've already seen personally that state regulators do step in. And then here we are seeing another character in the FDIC. So kudos to you, man. You absolutely called this.
Well, I called it, but I didn't call the FDIC. I didn't know that they would be paying attention. I mean, that just came out of the blue from nowhere. I've just never seen anything like it. So, but it does speak to what I was talking about last time, which is other regulators are going, if they're not going to do it, like, we'll have to step up and start going after it. Interesting thing about regulators, though, on the state side, is every state has different authority over their industry. And so not just authority by law where they've been given authority to go after an industry, but authority by practice. So some states are very business friendly, and they've been given by their director. The director has said, let's be business friendly and let's walk people through in an educational manner versus, use the carrot over the stick. And so they've been given that direction, and their hands are tied when it comes to actually busting people. Yeah. So if you look at the state setup, when states go after people, typically you've got an examination side of the state, and then depending on the state, and then you've got an enforcement side of the state. And so if the examination side goes out and finds something really bad, they turn that over to enforcement. And if enforcement chooses not to act on it, it's basically just a total waste of time. And it really drags the examination side down, where they're like, I just found the bad guy. I mean, imagine if your whole job was finding bad guys, and when you found them, you turned them over and nothing happened to them. Yeah. I mean, that was so frustrating. I've got a buddy who's a police officer, and I just spoke on the same panel as him, and he was talking about how difficult it is to be a police officer on the enforcement side, because they get all the time. Prosecutor doesn't go after a case, and he's like, I spent 5 months trying to catch this guy.
Super defeating.
Yeah, and I think there's so much of that it takes a state to really be bold and go after it and have it be a priority for them to actually do anything about something.
Yeah. Can we have some fun and speculate on what happens? Because it was very general, at least from what I've read. It just said co-marketing agreements and then desk rentals. Desk rentals is easy. They probably maybe were paying too much for what fair markets were dictating for the desk rentals. So that's easy. But the fun is kind of speculating what program were they using. Brian Stevens called it out too. I think you have was it a Zillow type program? Was it something completely different? Was it a smaller co-marketing program? And again, you've always said, hey, it's not just the liability isn't just on the lender. They can easily go after the realtor that is violating RESPA as well.
Yeah, they never do, because the FDIC doesn't control realtors, and the ones who do control realtors don't really give a rip. Usually. But yeah, if you were to let's break down the actual what was wrong. So first of all, that if you have a co-marketing agreement, let's take this to the total extreme, right? Let's say you have an agreement where you're in the office of a real estate broker, right? So you're sitting in the real estate broker's office. We both know that office needs to be licensed, first of all, right? Right. Then every dime that you put towards that needs to be matched by a dime put towards it by the company, or needs to be then matched with something that you can go, I gave you this dollar because you were going to do this, right? So to the extreme, let's say you go into a real estate office, and Ryan, you're the loan officer in the real estate office, and you come in with coffee one morning. Well, all right, so that's coffee. Is that okay for you to pay for more coffee than they pay for? And you brought the pound of coffee in. Is that going to be a problem down the road? Well, to take it to the extreme, you could look at that and go, well, you're covering the coffee because they sent you X amount of referrals last month. Yeah. Again, absolute extreme. When you go bigger than that and you start doing co-marketing, if they do, I would speculate it's some sort of Zillow type program. And there's not just Zillow, right? You have a bunch of others. What's the fire, I always want to call it bonfire, what's the one that's actually in Seattle? They'll help create separate websites for you and all that stuff. Boomtown.
Oh, Boomtown,
so, that type of thing or whatever. But if you look at that, who are we marketing and who's paying for that marketing? And if the realtor's paying for only a tiny part of the marketing or none at all, and the mortgage originator's paying for most of the marketing or a greater percentage, your violation's right there. And I would absolutely agree with a guy from Home Street who said we did what was commonplace in the industry. Because that's absolutely happening all the freaking time. And it drives me insane because I actually feel bad for Home Street because they truly were doing it on probably a much lower level than what a lot of other people are doing. And yet they're the one that gets nabbed up. Yep. And I don't feel bad for Home Street because you rarely see this from a depository.
Normally, very good point. Yeah, you usually see it from an independent mortgage banker or something, but not a bank. But I'll have Home Street's back. I know a lot of people over there, and our industry has a lot of good and bad characters. I would have never, and I still wouldn't say that Home Street has bad characters. They actually have a really good reputation. There's a lot of solid people that I know there. It could just be an instance of, like he said, we're kind of doing what everybody else is doing, and they got popped for it, unfortunately. But I guess any realtor or lender watching, that's a kind of a big point. Like, these weren't just the typical bad characters that finally got popped. Right. You and I could think of a lot of them, and I won't say any of those names in the business, but Home Street doesn't come to mind. They're good quality people. Right. But that should put everybody on blast, like, oh my God, if they can get hit for something so small, anybody can.
Yeah, and two things on that. The first one is we need to be clear that there was a settlement in this case.
And they didn't admit wrongdoing.
Not admit wrongdoing. They've still said we didn't do anything wrong. And for the sake of getting through this quickly, they just basically wrote a check and settled the case. So there's no finding of guilt or anything like that. So that we're clear to have us not get sued. But then secondly, it is interesting that you said for such a small thing, because I think it's seen as a small thing because everybody's doing it. But we have to remember how big it actually is if you're offsetting costs that realtors will be incurring, and not just how big it is of a violation, but also how much that skews the industry. So if I'm a really good loan officer, which I know a ton of great mortgage companies that have chosen not to enter into any co-marketing agreements unless they fully meet RESPA standards. And for those guys are losing when it comes to competing against somebody that's willing to write checks for the full amount of a realtor's marketing. And it drives me insane. So for them, it's a huge thing. For an ethical loan officer to get beat and have the realtor say, you're just not willing to do what that company's willing to do. Yeah. That company doing something illegal. Like, as an ex-loan officer, my heart hurts just thinking about good guys getting beat by people that are doing it wrong.
Yeah, it's weird that you caught that, the why I would categorize it as a small thing in my head. And I think in my mind, knowing them, knowing the fine, I don't know the product that they were using. I guess I just make that a smaller deal because I see this gigantic company called Zillow doing it times a million.
Everybody.
And for some reason, they're never popped.
Oh, no. Let's get clear on that. They were getting popped. Zillow was found by the CFPB to be in violation.
Key word was were, though. I mean, what happened?
They negotiated the settlement. Zillow was negotiating the settlement. Keep in mind, Zillow's a great amount of their income comes in for advertising. You said it on a panel I was at in Boise when you said all we have to do to stop Zillow is stop funding them. So most of their money coming in, or a lot of it, comes in through advertising. So the CFPB is negotiating a settlement to make them pay and stop doing bad behavior that the CFPB had said, this is wrong, this is illegal against law, we're coming after you. And it was the moment that Mick Mulvaney took over the CFPB, that changed your future as a mortgage guy. That changed your future because Mick Mulvaney comes in and says, never mind, you guys can go. He sets the captives free. And now the industry is moving forward, and Zillow gets to then move deeper into the mortgage industry because they're not paying fines or settlements that they would have paid had Mick Mulvaney not stepped into that role.
So not to turn this into like a conspiracy theory, but you and I love these, so let's just have some more fun. But that happened. You're right, 100%. They got away scot-free. Now in Washington we have this lawsuit against realtors. Guess who wins out in that? All of the iBuyer companies, including Zillow. And it's like a lot of things are going the way of the big fintech or real estate company that is in that space. It's so weird how things are working out for these giants and not so much for the realtor and lender on the street. I don't know if that's all tied together. It just seems really weird to me.
It is really weird. I'm always up for a conspiracy theory. So, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, so many people think that the Redfins and Zillows of the world are behind the big lawsuit against real estate commissions. It hasn't been proven out, but I can see who the big winner is. Right now, it's already been implemented in Washington. I'm sure it'll come your way to Oregon, California, the rest of the country. But I don't know. I can't prove that they are behind it, but I can definitely see how they win out on that.
Interestingly, on the fintech stuff, that the states are suing the federal government right now, right? So the OCC has a fintech charter where they're trying to pull all of the fintech companies, which doesn't have a solid definition at this point, pull all the fintech companies into the OCC regulation and out of the state's ability.
Oh, yes. I don't know too much about it. I've only kind of heard it like over here.
Yeah, they're trying to give them this charter to make them be able to move faster and operate as a different style of company. And the trick of that is the states all looked at that and went, wait a second, we license these people.
Yeah.
We're the only ones that can go after them right now, and we are. And you're about to take away our right to actually license them, enforce against them. They would basically punt on the state license requirements, no more tests, no more education, that type of thing. And so the states are looking at the federal government going, no, you can't take them from us. And so they've filed a lawsuit. The CSBS, which is the Conference of State Bank Supervisors, has filed a lawsuit against the OCC saying you can't take my people. So that'll be kind of interesting because there really is this like, once this company gets big enough, should we just regulate them less?
Yeah, I think when I read the original one, I'm just like, put it out of my head because I'm like, there's no way that this world exists where these guys just get a pass because they got a fintech behind their name and everybody else is regulated. So I think I was like, that's just not going to happen. Right. Maybe I was wrong. We'll see. But that just seems so crazy to me that they get a pass just because of the type of business they do and the size they are.
It is pretty crazy. Yeah. Hey, let's look at some of these questions that have come in. Adrian says Vatos Locos, which is verdad. And then Mark says, just did your CE video you did a year ago. Oh, we were hilarious. That's just a comment. It's nice. Maybe a justice, they got the sting. Government or state doesn't go after anyone, but they all go on SARS reports. Yeah, it really is frustrating. And that's a great comment that Rachel made in that the requirement, Ryan, so you guys, are you originating still?
No, but I still go to all your CE classes and have several licenses.
Yes, you do. But you you manage a lot of originators, right?
Yes.
So you have to go in there and say, hey, originators, if you see something fraudulent or money laundering, you need to report the SAR, yep. Right? You have to say that, and then they do that. So there's a requirement on you to go above and beyond to turn things in that you see that are fraudulent or, money laundering or any of those things. It's got to be frustrating to know that you guys have to do this burden, but they're not going to do anything with it.
Yeah. It's frustrating, but I will say, and I'm not just saying that because you're a good friend, but we are better originators because of your classes, because of your influence and leadership. You've been in my office several times and said, hey, Hills, check this out. This is something that you should look into and tighten up. And so that has made me a better leader. And I can hear it when the originators talk about this stuff. They'll quote you. And so, yeah, it's frustrating that sometimes we do some of these things and we try to be the good characters and sometimes it doesn't always come to fruition, or you kind of get the feeling of why am I doing this? But in the end, we're better people and originators because of it. So you don't do the right thing just because there's a hammer behind it. You do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, regardless if there's a hammer behind it or not.
Definitely. This is the year that we're trying to become not the best kept secret in the mortgage industry. So, but it is funny when I go into a new state where they've been taking somebody else's CE and I go provide CE in that state. The amount of miseducation or just uneducated loan officers blows my mind. The things that they say, they're like, we could give $25 as a thing of value. And it's like, where have you been taking your CE for the last 10 years that they didn't go over that? And I think what happens is it's such low quality out there that they just kind of click, and they don't know that they can have a better experience with CE. And so
absolutely. I'm a big fan of your live stuff, and I know you have online versions of the Knowledge Coop and everything, so don't take offense to this, but I'm a big fan of live. I think you can dig into real conversations and scenarios with you and your team in live. So I guess that's my commercial for all the lenders across America. You can hire Knowledge Coop. Try to get the live if you can. I think that you just get a better experience, like you said. We all know what happens when you're online. You're just trying to get through it, trying to answer the questions, trying to get, pass that little quick quiz and get that 1 or 2 hours out of the way versus truly being edified and learning something new to be a better originator in a live setting with Ken and his team. So
for you guys having the bond that you have with the rest of your team, showing up together and learning together, everybody's getting the same message.
Yeah.
I was blown away when people are like, oh, people just take CE from whoever. And it's like, what? You haven't made sure that they're all getting the exact same message. And that's the message that you want them to get. Tabitha says all CE, but ours is boring. I love that. Okay. Let's move from RESPA over to LO Comp.
Okay. Yes.
All right.
Hot topic.
So you and I have talked about LO Comp. LO Comp is the one that everybody's violating right now. And I just came out of a conference. For any of you compliance people on the watching this video, I'm on the reg list, which reg list is like the best way to get information as far as like daily ask your questions and answer your questions. It's just a really good way for a lot of folks to get information. So they had a conference. I'm down there with a bunch of other compliance officers, and we get to the topic of LO comp. And I think that was Loretta Salzano that was talking about it. Loretta is like one of my favorite attorneys in the industry. She's amazing. But they were talking about LO comp, and it was so funny because they're talking about like the deeper areas of LO comp. And then offline, we're all talking and going, yeah, everybody's violating right now. And the top areas they're violating, number one, some people are just saying, give a pricing exception and out of your compensation. So that's a big one. The second one, people are going, hey, if you sell this product, we're going to pay you less on that product because we don't pay as much on that product, right? Total violation.
Yep.
And then the other one is on the broker side. It's rampant, the violations of a lender that is actually, as a brokered loan, there's a problem on the loan. The lender has to now bring the rate down, and the lender charges the broker for that, which isn't okay in 99.9% of the scenarios. And so we're seeing it just go crazy everywhere, and nobody's really stopping it at this point.
I want to hear more about the third one. The first two this week alone, I've spoke with originators at other companies that have shared real life examples of that. I absolutely know that's happening, and not just like with one or two lenders, but across the board. The PE one, the pricing exception one, seems so easy to catch. I'm surprised that lenders are comfortable with that. That's so easy to catch. And then, paying different comp on bond or whatever product. I mean, that seems rampant. It's a little bit easier to cover up. But I haven't heard about the third one in the broker world. Can you give me a better example of that?
So a mortgage lender, let's say a mortgage lender that doesn't broker, and they've got a loan officer. The loan officer sells, X percent with X dollars. They're getting paid that amount. They're getting paid whatever their commission amount would be. There's something happens on the deal. Let's say something wasn't quoted or a fee needs to go on that doesn't allow you to change those fees. Now, all of a sudden, we're going to lose $500. A lender can't go to the loan officer in most cases and say, now pay me that $500 and take it out of their comp, right?
Right.
The same exact thing exists on a lender versus broker scenario, because in that scenario, the broker company is actually a loan originator. And I love that Andy Harris joined us because he'll be making some comments about this.
Andy, I'm sure will speak to that.
Yeah, so the lender can't go back to the broker on the same scenario and be like, we were going to give you X amount of lender paid comp, but now we're paying you less because of this thing, right? Yeah. $500 fee that we didn't add or whatever. They can't take that out of the broker's check, but they're doing it all the time. Gotcha. And the other one would be the broker accepting different comp plans from different lenders. Now the broker's accepting different amounts of money based on different things. So that can be a huge issue as well. And by the way, Andy Harris, speaking of which, says, when you research the definition of financial fraud, financial related felonies, money laundering, et cetera, it all falls right in with RESPA Section 8 violations, illegal steering for financial gain over the clients they're meant to serve. Viewed as a felony theft. Answer this. Here's the question. If a financial related felony bans one for life from originating loans, how is it that every individual, not company, participating in the illegal MSAs and RESPA violations are not banned for life in the industry? One violation done, it needs to happen. I can answer that. Andy, it's because they're not convicted of a felony. And if they were convicted of a felony, they wouldn't be able to get their license or maintain their license. But since nobody's going after that as a felony, you're not seeing anybody get convicted, and so you're not going to see it. And really, even a misdemeanor in most states would be a problem if they were convicted. But again, look at this case. Here's a RESPA case. It's a $1.3 million settlement. It's not going anywhere beyond that. It's not going to be a criminal charge or even a civil crime in it. So you're just not going to see it.
Right. Yep, that's the difference. And you read that really fast, so I was trying to catch up to how fast you were reading that. So basically, Andy was asking, why aren't they banned for life if they have a felony? You're basically saying, well, it's not a felony. It's basically a fine.
Not a conviction.
Not a conviction. It's not a criminal act. Is that right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Gotcha.
Well, it could be. A RESPA violation carries 1 year in jail. So it just the fact that it's a RESPA violation is a year in jail. He's taking it outside of the mortgage industry and saying that you're theft at this point.
Gotcha.
Granted, pretty easy to get to. It's $400, something like that. So he's saying if they really want to prosecute in a different way, they could technically go after it.
Gotcha.
He also says this is the biggest violation. In comp, he says there's more violations than the history of the last decade. He says nearly decade, which otherwise I would have blasted him because we have to remember 06. So 07, 08, 09, I guess 10 is when we stopped having all the fun tools to violate the law.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's totally right.
However, that could switch with this election. We're a nation of extremes, and we've definitely gone to one extreme. And if Elizabeth Warren, for instance, wins, I think we could go right back.
Dude, I know we have to be careful with this. I actually was on the Brian Stevens had me on his podcast and just went straight into politics right away. I'm like, but dude, we have to think about it, right? And if I remember it was 4 years ago. Let's see, what are we in? It was 4 years ago this coming September that I was doing a seminar talking about what the CFPB would look like if Trump won versus if Hillary won. And it was because they were both going for president that I had to bring this up. And this guy got really angry with me and yelled at me in the middle of class from the audience saying, can we stop talking about politics? Well, I'm not, right? If we're talking about who's going to win and how that will affect our industry, we do actually need to talk about the potential effect of a win one way or another, right? Yeah. So it's not talking about politics, it's talking about the effect of on the industry on what has happened over in the political landscape. And you're right, if Elizabeth Warren was to win this year, it would actually completely, everybody doing illegal things right now, like she'll hang them. Like she will burn them to the ground. It'll be Game of Thrones style. She's going to come after everybody guns blazing. And that's what people forget is the things you do now when nobody's looking will come back to you when somebody else picks it up and runs with it. So I don't know what Elizabeth Warren's chances are. I just started even looking at politics and what the election's going to hold. But I will tell you that if she or Bernie was to win, you will see the CFPB take on a completely different fire than they have right now.
I'll share a comment that I heard from a CEO at a high level that had a conversation with her. But let me say this first. I don't care who wins. I really don't. And I think people get too spun up about it. I have had great years in the business under Obama, Trump, and I'm sure I'll have some under Warren if she wins. I really don't care. So I don't have a dog in the fight, and I kind of equally hate both sides, so it doesn't matter to me. So I'm the perfect guy to talk politics because I just don't care. I stopped watching CNN and Fox 2 years ago, and I love it. I don't miss it one beat. I have no idea what's happening in the country, and I really don't care. And guess what? My life still goes. The world still spins, and maybe you call me ignorant or I'm burying my head in the sand, but guess what? I have a great family, great friends, professionals, careers working out great, and so I don't miss any of it. So I don't care about any of it. But I did hear a conversation. I wasn't there for myself, so I guess you could say it's hearsay, but it was from a very highly credible CEO that had a conversation with her, and she struggled to understand why originators were compensated off a government product, like an FHA or a VA product. I could see why she would say that. And in her head, she's not in our business.
You just go to the government and the government would do it for them and there wouldn't be a compensation of a middleman. Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, dude, I'm with you on the lack of paying attention to politics. I'll start. Here's the funny thing. Like a week before an election, I just start diving in and researching everything to make sure that I know at that point that there's so much noise going into it. My dad actually gets mad at me because he's like, how do you not know who the 18 people are that are running for office? I'm like, because I don't care. I'm going to care about them, and then I'm going to research them. But dude, check this out. Back on the Mark Holtzman actually commented, some lenders are disguising lower comp on loans with pricing exceptions by labeling them in-house referral.
Yes, that's true.
Zillow receiving less comp on an in-house referral deal. Here's the problem. You're lying. Like, when did lying become okay? It's not an in-house referral.
Right.
You switch the label to make more money, which almost sounds like money laundering because you're disguising the true source of the funds. It's not, but it's the same concept. Like,
isn't there a scarier word for lying that starts with F?
What?
Fraud.
Fraud. Yeah.
I mean, it's that.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And I would almost argue that a SAR should be filed on your own company in that case. I'm not arguing that, but I'm saying it's so deceptive and manipulative, and it's trying to trick the system. And if I'm a regulator, By the way, every mortgage person should just thank their lucky stars I don't go work for a regulator, because I know where all the bodies are buried.
Yeah, you do. That's true.
I'm telling you, it's crazy that people are okay with it.
To have the lenders back, I get why they do it. I get the economics behind it. But we have to work with the MBA and with the other regulators to help them see this and then change policy and procedure and regulations to accommodate that. We can't just lie or commit fraud because we can justify the means to the end. Like, let's work together to change it for the better, because I understand why people are doing it. I get it, especially like in the bond world. They're trying to offer a product to the community, and they don't want to lose money to do so.
Yep.
You know, they're trying to get rich, but we shouldn't have lenders losing money to do so.
You want the giant thing that I think is actually going to happen?
What? Yes, I do.
It's going to be insane. Here's what it is. It's not going to be a CFPB case unless Warren or somebody like that wins. You're not going to see a CFPB case over compensation, right? That on any scale. We have state regulators. We teach state regulators. We go teach them at conferences. Nate was just at a conference where a state regulator said that they don't know how to calculate or to figure out if LO comp is wrong, right? So you might not get it from a state regulator. I know of cases that have been referred to state regulators that the state regulator has done absolute jack squat on. Here's where it's going to come from. It's going to be an employment lawsuit, because take all your loan officers, take a company with
oh boy,
and all 800 loan officers have had their money stolen from them by their company in the name of go ahead and switch this over to a house account. And if all of them got together and filed a suit against their company, they are all getting paid, and the company could be completely devastated.
Oh my God, you just gave the blueprint.
Dude, if I found out that my company was paying me illegally, I would scream. I'd be like, no, I'm sorry, that doesn't work.
You may have just spoke that into existence, Ken. You just breathe that into truth into the world somewhere.
It's the fault of the companies that are doing it. And I get it. And to go deeper into what you're talking about, I get why they're doing it, because if they don't, loan officers will leave them. So you've got these ethical loan officers like you, and I freaking love your team. So working with your team has been awesome because you have so much ethics that you're actually, I go to your seminars and your team will actually come up to me and go, what about this? What about this? What about this? And they want to not just check and see if something's illegal. They want to know if something's legal that they're allowed to do.
Yeah.
And then let's just make sure, right? Not everybody's like that, right? And so you've got these companies that they have top producing loan officers that are like, hey, switch your comp plan or I'm leaving. And the company goes, all right, I guess we'll have to do that. Now they're doing it wrong because they were forced to. Those same loan officers will leave you and then sue you for paying them less. So it should be interesting.
Yeah.
And all it is one case. And after one case, I bet you a lot of companies start doing it right.
Well, if that happens the way you're saying it, which makes a lot of sense, it's going to be a gigantic case with a big number behind it.
Don't even start me off on clawbacks.
Yeah.
Companies that are clawing back income that had been earned need to start looking at the Department of Labor.
Ooh, can I ask you a question on that? I don't know either way.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a dumb question, but is it okay? Is it compliant to claw back originator originates loan and it maybe is sold on the secondary market and then it pays off early? It's called an EPO in our business, early payoff, right? And so a company will claw back the compensation earned on that loan. Follow me? Is that?
Yeah, I know. I hear what you're saying. Here's what I would do if I was the loan officer. I would go to the Department of Labor's website, find out what state I'm in, and I would look up that state's requirements for the ability to take back somebody's money that they've earned. And I do the research, and I'd probably have an attorney help me. I'm not an attorney, so I can't tell you whether or not it's okay or not. But it's not if I was running a company, I wouldn't do it. Now, what I would do, just to make sure I'm not just the no guy, is if I ran a company and I had a comp plan where I wanted to get paid back for those, at the end of the year, when I reevaluated everybody's comp plan, I would take a look at anybody that had more than a couple of those early payoffs. And I would go, hey, dude, you're killing us. Here's your new comp plan. And I'd probably offer them a much less aggressive comp plan prospectively for 2020 than I did for 2019 based on those things. So,
yeah, I mean, this example falls right in line with the rest of the examples where I say, I get it. I get both sides, and being, climbing up in my career, being an executive and being an originator now, I can see both sides real clearly. Like from, if I'm running a business, if I'm an entrepreneur and I don't make any money on the product that was just sold, how can I then give a person compensation on that. I didn't earn any money. So from a company standpoint, I get that. From an originator standpoint, they may be saying, hey, you hired me to originate loans. That person won the lottery and paid off the loan in 60 days. How am I at fault for that? My job was to originate a loan within the confinements of all the rules that we've been talking about. So that's also true. I get the originator's point. Like, I didn't know they were going to win the lottery and pay it off. How are you going to take back the compensation because of something that I can't control? So it's a tough one.
I don't think there's a way you can do that, because in that scenario, I get wanting to go after it when let's say a loan officer is churning and just refining their people every 4 months. Totally get that. I get that way more than I get the lottery winner. The one that's most frustrating, I just got a call on this last week, is this guy the loan was done. Like 4 months later, the dude refis with another lender. So this loan officer had nothing to do with the refi, and the whole lender came back and said, we're going to hit you for the fees, and we want all that money back now. Now, that's a different scenario where the DOL doesn't really get involved, because that's a scenario of a company charging a company for what was done. What I would look at on those things, and really on every LO comp issue, I would go back to the agreement that the LO has signed with their boss or their company, and I would go to the agreement that the broker has signed with the lender. Because one thing that they did in LO comp that was so smart is they required that every LO comp plan must be in writing and kept for, I think it's 3 years. And so if you're switching things to a house account, I would go back to that LO comp plan and find out, is it written in the comp plan that they can switch something, or that if it's a house account, it can be paid out at this amount. Because what I think is happening is they're writing these LO comp plans that are like this house account's not in there. And they're like, by the way, here's our new thing. Well, if the company didn't go back and document in every single individual comp plan that this is the case, you've got a problem there as well. And there was a comp case on that where they were punished because the comp they were paying out wasn't in the written comp agreement.
Yeah, so side note on that, with your example of the originator not knowing that another lender got involved after the fact, I've heard so many originators, they're confused, they're angry as to why in this low rate environment, why if they're looking at rates for the consumer, let's say 4% is a par rate and 4.1 gives the consumer back, I don't know, a half of a point. They get frustrated as they go up the rate sheet and the rebate isn't there. Well, the rebate isn't there for that exact example, because there's lenders that know that in a low rate environment, if you're selling a higher rate, maybe giving a bigger credit back to the consumer, there's a high likelihood that another lender is going to come in behind you and refi that into a lower rate, and thus that lender's out of any compensation they would have earned on the loan as well. And so loan officers wrongly assume, can't speak for every company, that the lenders are just like hiding margin and why isn't there more rebate? It's because it's portfolio running away. They don't want to sell these higher rates that have a high likelihood to pay off early. Just a sidebar.
No, it totally makes sense. Yeah, if you do a bunch of loans and people just take a bunch of cash back on the loans with higher rates and then turn them into something lower, it kills the companies, right?
So there's simply no secondary market for those higher rates, and thus typically you would see on an average, in a typical environment, you may see rebate go up as you go up in the rate sheet. That's common, but not in this environment. I can't speak for every lender out there. I don't think there's any sinister plan to hide margin to the originators. It's just there's no secondary appetite for it on the secondary market.
Yeah. All right, got a couple more questions here. So Mark says many major lenders have clawback provisions for EPO on LO pay agreement. Definitely run it through their legal divisions and must feel they're on solid ground. That's cute. Yes, the EPOs have always been in their agreements. And as long back as when I was a wholesale lender back in 2000, we had agreements for EPO in ours that says you have to buy that back as a company. Where that changed is when the LO comp rule came out and defined a broker as a loan originator in this case. Let me just be really clear, on the lender not paying the broker, having the EPO with the broker, that might be totally fine. What I have a problem with is the one where the broker is, or the mortgage company is taking it from the loan originator as an employee. That's the one I'm talking about, the DOL will get involved in. The other one, you can totally pay based on loan performance. And as long as you've got that written into your agreements, then I'm not nearly as firmly arguing against that as I would be.
I'm curious if Andy's still on. I don't know the broker world, how that's handled in the broker world, if there's an EPO. So I just don't know. I don't live in that world. So if he's on, he could he could weigh in on that. Do they also have compensation pulled back? I'm curious.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
And then Josh Pitts is on saying hello to us.
What's up, Josh?
To Ryan Stacy Hills. Now, let's be clear. Stacy's your middle name. So
no, it's not. No, it's not. I can't. Why? Facebook won't let me put an and. Stacy's my beautiful wife.
So awesome. She posted something recently that was so funny because I always read it like it's you posting. And I was like, wow, Ryan's being super emotional right now and like and kind and loving. And she just had like this sweet, flowery post. And I was like, okay, that's not Ryan.
Yeah, that's the fun. We keep you guys on your toes, and I take a lot of flack for having a shared Facebook account. So go ahead. I got, thick skin, broad shoulders. You can take shots at me. It's okay.
Oh, man. So Andy says, in the next 2 to 5 years, I won't post here my prediction, but I believe some disruption will happen to a certain aspect of the business that will uproot things before any class action suit unrelated. Certainly a class action suit could occur for these reasons if enough LOs stay in a place long enough in the world of revolving resumes we live in. That's a good way to say it.
Revolving resumes? That's hilarious.
Yeah. I think that's the question. These retail recruiting bribes, bonuses, shares. Just hard to stick enough people with one company long enough to follow a suit together. Dude, I freaking love Andy Harris.
Getting real.
Yeah. And he says, we as a company have recourse and 6-month EPO we don't put on employees. Cool.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Andy's always going to tell you Andy's thoughts, and I freaking love him just because he's so smart. And so
you never have to wonder where you're at. Like, that's how I operate. I'm just very straightforward, too. I'll tell you if I feel passionately about something, and I'll ask a lot of questions if I don't know, but you're never going to have to wonder where I stand.
Yeah, definitely. So good times. There's another Ken Powell, my good buddy Ken, the other KP, says, I get clawbacks for EPOs on refinances where the LO is involved, and, of course, work hard to prevent them on sales following a refi. But what about on purchase transactions? Interesting. On purchase transactions, if they do a payoff within the first few months, I guess they probably, I don't know if they would claw back the income, but I just wonder how these people are doing refis that fast when the rates aren't really dropping by more than 1% in any given year. How are you, is it pulling cash out all of a sudden or what? Do you know?
I don't.
I got my loan like 8 years ago and still the rates haven't dropped low enough for me to make a move. But I got it on like the rock bottom best day. So I don't know how they're doing that.
Yeah.
So here's a question. When was the last major penalty or suit was handed down? Feels like the claws of CFPB have been trimmed dramatically. CFPB got a major manicure. And they have,
that's a nice way to
like
put it.
I did last week. By the way, that's a power buff. All the guys were doing power buffs now. And I am telling you, these things shine.
That's hilarious.
No, they cut back all the clause on the CFPB. So the last major case against a mortgage lender CFPB was the one that went after the Hamda case where they were just making all their borrowers white, right?
I don't recall that.
The CFPB case. Other than that, not really. They don't really go after mortgage companies right now. I am told that their people still want to. I'm told Elizabeth Kreninger is actually considering going after some mortgage lenders, but I'm just not seeing it very much at all. I think a mortgage lender right now is more likely to get hit by the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, than they are getting hit by the CFPB. That's my guess right now. They're just not looking nearly as deeply. And if you read Elizabeth, I called her Elizabeth Kreninger, Kathy. Sorry,
Kathy. I was like, she have a sister.
I did a mashup of Elizabeth Warren and Kathy Kreninger.
Yes.
So Kreninger wanted to, or in her most recent state of the CFPB, she was like, we're not really looking at major enforcement. We're looking at a lot of education and trying to prevent things from happening in the future. So that's just a regulator saying, you guys are all free to break the law. Have a great day, and I'll let you know if anything changes.
That's awesome. Jeez.
Right? It's not, and that's kind of how you do it. Right?
No middle ground. Again, nations of extremes. We can't just find common middle ground.
It doesn't matter though, because we could talk cybersecurity. We're not far off from me taking as many people as I can and moving to Antelope, Oregon, to lead our new community because technology is getting a little crazy as well right now. So let's move over to that and finish with that. We don't have a ton of time.
Yeah.
To keep it up. But dude, cybersecurity right now. I just talked to, I was speaking at a conference and it was fascinating to me. looking at the California Consumer Privacy Act, which is going to be a massive act that's going to have a lot of impact. But looking at that and then looking at the mortgage industry and then talking to my hacker friends about what they're doing and what their plans are for the mortgage industry and what they could do to us, we don't have a good future here in the mortgage industry unless a lot changes, because we are way too loose with data. We're way too loose with our systems. And it doesn't take much for there to be a ransomware attack because everybody opens every email and clicks on whatever. And so I'm pretty concerned about the industry in that light. Are you guys as a lender, because you are a lender,
Yep.
You're not just Ryan Hills with the resource.tv, and Ryan Hills, also El Jefe in the American Lender series by the Knowledge Team.
Yeah, buddy.
You also work for a mortgage lender. What are you guys hearing from corporate on protecting data and where you guys are with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's also, I just came back from South Carolina, and it's not in your originating systems only, it's in your data collecting systems on your point of sale. If you have an app, it pertains to everything. The biggest takeaway I've had from 2 experiences of wire fraud in our own branch in market, I've experienced that, and then hearing your talks on and offline with your hacker buddy, Cosmo, I think his name is.
Yeah. Yep.
We hear cybersecurity, we hear wire fraud, and we think it's all done on a gigantic computer with the matrix just trying to figure out passwords. And it really isn't. In my personal cases that I know of, and again, talking with you and hearing your conversation with Cosmo, a lot of it is simple trickery of picking up the phone and trying to trick somebody into giving you your password, or simply intimidating or imitating an email from an escrow company. That's really easy to do. I can do that, and I'm not at all a computer hacker, and it just trick you into wiring your funds to, Abu Dhabi versus the escrow company down the street. So you got to really be on guard for the simple attack. We always think that it's this gigantic, matrix attack. It's a person calling, emailing, or texting, impersonating somebody else. That's what was the biggest takeaway for me, because most people, because it's so simple, they don't know that it's part of a hack.
Right.
Yeah, so that was really interesting to me, and that's exactly how our wire fraud cases that we ultimately got solved and helped the borrower, but it was basically a simple phone call, a simple email of a person just tricking somebody into sending money, a gigantic sum of money, to the wrong place. Which, by the way, the bank, if I wire funds, I'm at KeyBank, from KeyBank to Dubai, it's not on there. It's not their job to make me whole. KeyBank had nothing to do with that. So they're just like, sorry, buddy, you wired $100,000 to some place in Dubai for your down payment. We're not giving you that. There's not like fraud protection for the consumer on that.
Oh, dude, funniest thing happened last week. So as of last Friday, I am 100% owner of the Knowledge Coop.
Oh, nice. Congrats.
Yeah, so I was buying my partner out, and I went to the bank, and I got a cashier's check and then deposited in his bank to make the money transfer instead of doing wire. And so I got there and I asked for a large sum of money to come out of my bank, and realized I was triggering a SAR with her, right? Because I've never taken that much money.
Yeah.
First of all, I take all the money out, go to a cashier's check to pay to some random dude in their mind. And at the same time, I got cash for Romania because I'm going over to visit Romania. And so I got cash. I got Romanian cash.
You triggered all the red flags.
I told her, I'm like, what's your computer doing right now? Is it going crazy? And she goes, my computer's popping up all these pop-ups saying I should watch out for this and I should be paying attention. It's hilarious.
Her hand under like the counter was like triggering the alarm. Like, what do you do with your hands?
Oh, totally. So,
I'm going on a missions trip, for God's sake. Come on.
But dude, I got to tell you this. This is one of those gems we put at the end of a video interview to see who stays till the end.
Who gets to get the gold at the end? Yeah.
Let me drop this on you. I can only pay attention to so much. I pay attention to every law I can possibly pay attention to. I read, I study, I research constantly. Can't get to all of them, right? And every now and then something happens and I hear an acronym go around and I just don't pay attention, right? So I just heard the acronym pop up again of RON. And I was like, all right, RON, I should look into RON. They said they were making progress with RON with all the different states. And I was like, all right, what's RON? RON is remote online notarization. And let me tell you something. Here's my take on RON after looking into it for like 5 minutes. my take on Ron is, and by the way, Ron is when you can remote sign a borrower to a loan without ever having them come to the office.
Yeah, and that's gaining a ton of steam.
Yeah, here's my take on it. We are absolute idiots if we push this thing and want it to happen. Because if Ron goes through and states, I will straight up quit my job, I'm moving to Bora Bora, or I'm going to find a non-extradition island, and I'm going to just load up my computer, I'm going to jump on the dark web, I'm going to buy a driver's license with my face on it and everybody else's name on it. I'll buy a bunch of them. I'm going to buy social security numbers. I'm going to dig in and I'm going to refi everybody's house. I'm going to do HELOCs. If you are going to do a loan and you're not going to have an appraiser come to the house, sweet, now I don't get found out. And then at closing, I'm going to sign the entire thing. Right now, I'm going to use my face, but within a year, I'll be able to use a deep fake face, and I'll actually be able to put Ryan Hill's face over my face on camera. It looks like Ryan, and I'm going to sign that loan on camera, and I'll be in some island that you can't come get me on. And I promise you, there will be so many bad guys that will be refinancing, or mainly they'll be getting HELOCs on people's houses because
it's too easy. It's just too easy. I mean, I've been saying it for the last 2 years. It's, kind of one of my things that I say a lot. Just because we can doesn't mean we should.
Oh my gosh, totally. Yeah. It's insane. If it's too hard for you to walk down there, to drive to an office to get a $600,000 check,
to sell the biggest asset of your life, or to get the biggest check of your life, I think it warrants, and it's okay for us to be there in person. That's just me, though.
I think so, too. Yeah. So just calling that out now as people move more towards that, just know that if I stop posting or stop doing videos, it's because I'm on an island making a ton of money.
Doing deep fakes.
Yeah, I will deep fake everybody. Like, it's just going to be too easy. How could I turn down that money?
Hey, maybe that's our next topic. Or, hey, guys, if you have another topic you want us to cover for next time, put it in the chat log below. We'll be happy to cover it.
Yep. And my favorite thing about doing these I have a lot of favorite things. One of my favorites is when you look down at the people that are watching and realize some are my clients, some are your friends from the industry, and then some are our high school friends from when we graduated high school.
Right.
So that's what about Facebook, because you get this full
eclectic group. It's really just my parents and your parents watching, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah. They want people to make sure. So.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Anything else? Final thoughts?
No, man, appreciate your time. And I promise, Ken and I have been talking about it. We're going to try to do a better job at having a reoccurring live event. So we will try to commit to, once a month or every other week or something. But I find a ton of value in it, in just talking to you. I'm sure other people do as well.
Absolutely. And I'm driving up to meet with you and be interviewed by Brian, I believe, for Between the Files.
Yeah. When is that? I should know.
I think it's like the week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Oh, boy, that's going to be epic. You need to bring your thick skin to be on that show with LaFlame.
I think I might wear a hat because I think Brian's probably going to spend a lot of time on this.
Yeah, no, just embrace it. Just walk into it. Feather that thing as high as you can get.
Tell RC to put a link to the to your Between the Files on this feed.
Okay. I just watched it again yesterday, actually.
It's so awesome. All right, dude, I'm going back to work.
Okay. See you, buddy.
Thanks so much, man. I'll see you.
See ya.